Come on, Twitter. You're better than that. All right. Let me get this tweet out. Free as can be. Just create an account. All right. Perfect. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Cale Hammond, and today I'm breaking down a massive slate of ATP tennis in Australia. So we've got the ATP Cup, ATP Melbourne, and ATP Adelaide. And with so many matches, it's easy to get overwhelmed, but that's the beauty of tennis betting, is that you just need to pick one or two plays. You know, a 1-no day is oftentimes better than a 2-1 day, depending on the odds. Yesterday, our public plays had a nice day with Felix getting the underdog win over Norrie in straight sets, and Botic van de Zandschulp breezing past Adrian Mannarino minus 2.5 game spread. That was our play of the day, so you'd love to hit those. Would have been an amazing day, especially early in the season when things are pretty tricky, pretty tough. But I decided to get involved in the Andy Murray match after he lost the first set to Facundo Bagnis, which it ruined my day. You know, it was a stupid bet too much. It was just out of principle, since Bagnis had, prior to that, had only had 3 hard court wins in his 10-year ATP career. It was just purely a principle play. But that brings me to the main point before we start breaking down the matches. Andy Murray, there's fascinating prices, you know, on his matches, because look, he showed at the end of the year he can get hot and beat anyone. He tuned Yannick Sinner indoor hard court. He had some incredible wins, but look, when you're betting on Andy Murray, you just have to be extremely, extremely careful. I've lost a lot on him in the last 6 months. You just have to watch him play. That's the only way to bet Andy Murray right now these days is you have to watch him play and see with your own eyes that he's moving well. Make him hit, you know, several amazing vintage Andy Murray shots before thinking about getting involved either way. Because look, the guy's so old now. You have old days and young days, and you just never, ever, ever know pre-match how his body's going to be feeling. If there was a way, if you have an inside scoop to Andy Murray's hip health, bet him pre-match all you want. But for me, look, I've done it enough. It's just not worth it. You need to see it with your own eyes. You need to see the vintage Andy Murray and the consistency from the ground, because at no point against Bagnis did he look comfortable. But down a set, you know, I felt like I had to make the bet, and it cost me huge. So make sure you see it with Andy Murray. That's the big, because he's going to be playing all these tournaments this year, and it's going to be tempting, you know, if he's an underdog to hit him, or if he's a decent favorite. Just watch it, see it with your own eyes. So now that that's out of the way, we're gonna go through ATP Cup, Adelaide, and Melbourne. We're gonna guess the lines first, then we're gonna go through and see what the lines actually are. I think that's the best way to do it. Definitely always do it yourself, what you would make the line, what you think, and then you see the actual odds, and you know it just pops out right at you. I think that's probably the best way to go about breaking down a huge slate like this. All right, so let's start with the ATP Cup. We got Alejandro Tabilo from Chile versus Victor Durasovich. Look, I'm not really sure on this one. Tabilo's looked pretty good, so I'm going to make him a -4 game favorite. Next one, we got Camille Matrak versus Federico Del Bonis. Del Bonis, not best hard court player, but I don't think Matrak's necessarily the best player in the world either. I have Matrak -1.5 game favorite here. Moving on, big time matchup. Hubert Hurkacz versus Diego Schwartzman. Diego's playing really well. So I would make Diego the favorite in this match. I would probably put him at -1.5 game favorite. I think that's fair. Balls bouncing high. If Hurkacz, he has the advantage in the free points on serve. Diego doesn't have that. But look, with Hurkacz's performance the other day, almost losing to a guy 800 in the world, it's tough to be confident in Hurkacz, even though he's one of my favorite players to bet. But look, just from the ground, Diego's rock solid right now, so that's going to be tough for Hurkacz to be solid enough to get through that match. Next one, we got Casper Ruud versus Christian Garin. Garin's probably the nicest guy in the world, but he's 17 in the world. It's a joke. He's not the 17th best player in the world. He's probably in the 70-80 range, actually. So I have Ruud -4.5 games at least, but Ruud is so heavily priced these days, it'll probably be higher than that. Next one, we got Filip Kriegenovich versus Pablo Carrena Boosta. I have Boosta -2.5 game favorite, just more solid, more mentally there throughout the match. Kriegenovich, I had him -2.5 versus Tabilo, and I'm in California, so it's super late. And Kriegenovich gets up 6-4, then gets up early break 2-0. So I turn it off and go to bed, and then I wake up and I'm in the red because he got up 6-4, 2-0, and then it was immediately broken back-to-back games. It's just like that. Kriegenovich, there are awesome prices on him, and he is an interesting player to bet, but I would, if you bet Kriegenovich and he gets up, I would hedge the other side and just guarantee profit because he's burned me so many times like that. He was in full control and just forgets how to play tennis for 5 games, and then you lose your bet. So I have him as a 2.5 game underdog versus Carrena Boosta. Next up, Dusan Liovich versus Roberto Batista Aguda. Look, RBA should win that match, should get a break each set, no problem. I have that -4 games. Finally, for ATP Cup, Stefanos Tsitsipas versus Nicolas Basilashvili. A little bit of revenge factor. Bash beat him in Indian Wells, but those conditions were so good for Bash, the super slow courts, and Tsitsipas was struggling with that elbow injury. I have Steph 3.5 game favorite. Bash did not look good in his first match back. He got tuned by Diego, so 3.5 there. So now let's go to Bovada, and we'll check what the lines are. All right, I had Tabilo -4. He's -5. Nothing really there. I have Matchtrack -1.5. He's -2.5. If you want to bet that, go right ahead. I really don't. I've seen Matchtrack play a handful of times. I don't think he's that good. Del Bonis, if he gets hot, he can play some huge tennis. Don't think there's anything there. Hurkacz Diego, I had Diego -1.5. He is -1.5. It's a tough one to bet. That's about right. Ruud versus Garin, I had Ruud -4.5. Ruud is actually -5, so that's tough. Ruud on a hard court, taking 5 games, I would not do it. I'm going to avoid that one. Kriegenovich versus Boosta -2.5. PCB is -3, so that seems right about right on. Nothing there. Liovich versus Batista Aguda, I had RBA -4. RBA is -5. So once again, Liovich had to retire from his last match with cramping, and RBA looked really good. I wouldn't mind taking the -5, especially at even money, but there's so many matches in these first few days, and really this whole month, that I just don't think laying 5 game favorites in a 2 out of 3 set match is the right way to go about it. Tsitsipas versus Basilashvili, I had Steph -3.5. Steph is -4.5. So that is interesting. I think we're going to mark that down just because his health, yeah, he looked pretty good at times against Diego, and he was up a set and a break, and then Diego just came back. The mental toughness aspect of Tsitsipas' game wasn't there. And Diego played amazing, but 4.5 games versus Basilashvili, I think that might be worth a play. I'm probably not going to touch it because I think Bash had a great year last year. He made a ton of money. And I don't know what he was up to in the offseason. I don't know how, he's going to start the year. He had one of the best years of his career last year, so I think he might have taken a little break. I'm not sure, but if you want to take Basilashvili plus 4.5 games, that's a lot of cushion. If he gets up an early break or wins a set, he's going to cover that spread. But once again, I think it's sort of right on. Moving on to ATP Adelaide. So Laszlo Djere versus Corentin Moutet. I have Moutet minus 1.5. Djere's a good player. He can play with anyone, but he just seems to have a mental block on hard court when it comes to getting over the finish line. I think this match could be pretty close, but also, Djere doesn't serve that well. Moutet has the variety and the slice and just the craftiness to trouble him. But then again, I hadn't seen Moutet play much the last couple of years. He hasn't been completely healthy, so I'm going to avoid that one. Next one I like. So we got Mikhail Yimer versus Soonwoo Quan Soonwoo. This is interesting because Quan, he played some amazing tennis the other day, but I would have Yimmer as a -1 game favorite in this just because of the game style. So Yimmer reminds me a lot of, of like a Gael Monfils in terms of who he matches up well against. If someone is going to come out like Quan and just rip to corners and, play, percentage tennis, hit big ground strokes, that is actually helps Yimmer because his defensive tennis is incredible. It really is the best aspect of his game. Like his court coverage and his range from 10 feet back in the court. I like the matchup here for Yimmer. I really do. Look, if Quan's hot and he can't miss, yeah, he could totally beat him. But just in terms of how their games match up, I do like how Yimmer matches up. He won for us as an underdog the other day, so we might get involved there depending on the line. Moving on, Francis Tiafoe versus Tenaci Kakanakis. It's great to see the Kak back in action. He's, he can beat anyone any given day. I have Tiafoe as a -3 game favorite here. You never want to make any bold predictions or have any expensive theories when it comes to Francis Tiafoe, but you cannot deny that his career is on the upswing. You can't, he's just extremely talented. He's hitting his slice better than ever before. I think that was one of the best shots of the whole year last year, honestly, was Francis Tiafoe. The way he used the slice, his backhands, flat backhands, awesome. Heavy forehand. He's got the contrast and spins and pace. And when he mixes up that slice and uses it, as an offensive shot, brings his opponent forward, like he's nasty. So I have him -3 over Kakanakis. Kakanakis serves huge. I think a 6-4 is totally possible there. Last match from Adelaide, Thiago Monteiro versus Marin Cilic. Cilic is another one. He looked pretty good last year. I like the matchup for him. We know the court in Adelaide is fast. It bounces pretty high. He does get out to that backhand and defend pretty well with Monteiro's cross-court forehand. I have Cilic as a -4 game favorite. I think 2 breaks per set. Anytime you're betting Marin Cilic and you are asking him to win a match with more than 2 breaks, it's sketchy because Cilic doesn't give a fuck. He gets 1 break and he serves it out. Like, it doesn't matter for these guys. Cilic, Kevin Anderson, these big servers, big hitters like that, they want their 1 break and then they're going to serve it out. So I would not trust Cilic to dig deep and really expend a ton of energy if he is up a break in each set. I would expect him to focus on his serve games, hold serve, and then, go for his shots on his return game, which oftentimes means he'll miss 4 straight shots in a row. So that's a tough situation. If you have Cilic to win by more than 2 breaks in a match, you're just sitting there just kind of like, fuck, why did I do that? All right, so let's check out the odds on Bovada. All right. Jerry versus Mute. I had Mute -1.5. It is -1.5. Nothing there. Yammer versus Quan. I had Yammer -1. And Yammer is a +2.5 game underdog. So we're going to mark that one. I think that's a good bet. Nothing crazy. Never bet like a ton on Yammer because his form, it can be kind of sketchy, but the matchup game style wise is certainly there. Tiafoe versus Kakanakis. Tiafoe -3 I had, and Tiafoe's -2. So a 6-6 is a push. I don't like betting Francis Tiafoe matches, but I did oppose him several times at the end of the year. I didn't think he was going to finish strong. I thought he would be, sort of coast after the US Open, but that was not the case at all. I could not have been more wrong, and that cost me some money. So I think Tiafoe -2, totally worth the play. Like he's better at tennis than Kakanakis. It depends if Kakanakis serves huge, yeah, that's tough. But Tiafoe's more complete player. Monteiro was Cilic. Cilic -4. It is Cilic -4, but that I have even money, so that I have no problem with. You get a 1-to-1 return on Marin Cilic to beat Monteiro by 2 breaks, which he probably will do. That I think is definitely worth a play if you can get +100. I like that. I like those odds. If he serves first, gets that break, wins a 6-3 set, you're in very good shape. Moving on to ATP Melbourne. Marcos Giron. I ran into Marcos walking in Manhattan Beach. He lives in El Segundo, the town over. And I got to talk to him about the year, and he's in great spirits. He's finally completely healthy. He's moving well. His quads were as big in person as they look on TV. And look, he's gonna have a good year. And I asked him most specifically, I was like, what do you like playing on? I know you don't like clay, you're a Southern California kid, but like what indoor hard court, quick indoor hard court, slow hard court? And he just said, look, as long as it's a hard court, I feel pretty comfortable. I don't really care. So that's good to know. And I have him -3 games over Ricardus Berankis. Berankis is a tough guy to bet against because he can redline and just hit, slap a bunch of winners. But at this stage in their careers, Marcos is a much better player. Moving on, Chris O'Connell versus Jordan Thompson. I have Thompson as a -1 game favorite. Battle between the Aussies. I hate betting over game totals. I hate it. So I seem to always lose. But if you want to bet the over, anything over 22.5, 23 in this match between O'Connell and Thompson, I can't argue with it. Jordan Thompson is the king of ATP tennis overs. He fights back when he's down and he chokes when he's up. And that's a good recipe for hitting the over. So I may have to make a play on the over depending on what it is. So let's move on. Benoit Paire versus Henri Laaksonen. Laaksonen is a lucky loser. He lost to UNC North Carolina kid Rinky Hijikata yesterday, I believe. And Laaksonen, I have him as a -1.5 game favorite over Benoit Paire, but we're wasting time. Like, you're not betting Benoit Paire. You shouldn't bet Benoit Paire. Don't. It's not. Life's too short to bet Benoit Paire. It's not worth it. Moving on, Emil Ruusuvuori versus Sebastian Baez. Baez was super impressive at the next gen on that quick indoor hard court. I did not expect him to play that well, but he had no problem with it. Outdoor hard court, quick outdoor hard court. It's just, he can play. Look, he can play. And Ruusuvuori's sketchy, but I have Ruusuvuori as a -2.5 game favorite here. Moving on, Maxime Cressy versus Rinky Hijikata. Hijikata beat Laaksonen. Great win for him. I have Cressy as a -2.5 game favorite. 4 and 6. Who knows? Hijikata is clearly playing well in Australia, where he's from. So there's something there. But quick hard court, lively balls. Cressy's just a fucking nightmare to play. So I have him -2.5 game favorite. Alex Molcon versus Andreas Seppi. This one's interesting because Seppi's, he's pretty old now, but like in these conditions, they have like the roof, like the mini roof over the court. It seems pretty still conditions, which is good for Seppi. He's not the best player in the win because he gets so flat. I have him as a -1.5 game favorite over Malkin. But I haven't seen Malkin play much since the U.S. Open when he beat Nakashima in that match. So we'll see about that one. Moving on, Alexei Popyrin versus Stefano Travaglia. I have Popyrin -3. Off season in Australia, doesn't have to travel. This guy's tough because he's so talented, but you lay games with Popyrin as the favorite, and Popyrin gets up 40-15 double break point, and he misses 2 returns going for a clean winner. It's just frustrating. I don't like betting him. I like taking Popyrin plus game spreads when he's a big underdog because he usually gets up for those matches. But I like Popyrin -3 here. Moving on, last match of the day, Jaime Munar versus Kevin Anderson. Once again, it's like Seppi, Murray, Anderson. These guys, you don't know if they're going to have an old day or a young day. And I have Anderson -3.5 with his serve and his flat ground strokes. Munar's, hitting heavy, chasing balls down. But if Anderson gets to set up in the middle of the court and tee off on balls, look, he's you don't want to play him when he's doing that. And Munar will sit back. I think Munar will have to be the aggressor throughout the match, which is not his game. And so I have Anderson -3.5 there. So let's go through back to Berankis versus Giron. I had Giron -3. Giron's -2. So look, I like that. I think that's worth a play. I wish we could have a Marcos match before this to, gauge his form. But Giron's just better at tennis than Berankis. He can win with different ways. He can win, by playing smart defense, picking his spots. He can win by cracking forehands if he has to. His defense is underrated. I like Giron -2 there a lot. So we're going to add that to the plays. Add that to our recommended plays. Let's see. Where's the chat? Going to start some recommended plays. All right. All right, Marcos Giron, -2 games over Berankis. Like that play a lot. O'Connell versus Thompson, that I had -1.5. That's a straight pick 'em. That's the overs the bet there. If you like betting overs, I don't. Benoit pair versus Henri Laxonen. Laxonen's -3.5 games. We're not going to even look at that. Don't even touch it. Rusevori versus Baez. I had Rus -2.5. He's -3. That seems right on. And betting Rusevori matches it's not good for your heart. He's like the Madison Keys of ATP right now. Like when he's on and it's just like, oh my God, this guy's so good, beat anyone. And then next thing you know, it's break point and he gets a second serve return and he hits it against the back fence. So I don't like betting on players who hit the ball on the back fence. Let's see. Maxime Cressy versus Hijikata. Cressy -2.5. Cressy's -3. That seems about right. Molken versus Seppi. I had Seppi -1.5. Molken's -2. There's definitely value on Andreas Seppi, but it just depends on how he's moving, how he's playing. But I do like the matchup there. Molken has that lefty heavy, gets it off the court, but Seppi's just flat through the court. It's going to be tough for Molken to create angles against Seppi. He does not give you much to work with. Do I want to make it a play? I don't think we're going to make that an official play, but if you thought Seppi, I don't see anything wrong with betting Seppi there on a quick outdoor hard court. Popyrin versus Travaglia. Popyrin's -3. I had him. He's -2.5. Popyrin's -2.5. I like that too. Popyrin -2.5 over Travaglia. Like that one. Australian kid playing in front of Australian fans. You know, if he doesn't get up for that one, that's going to be disappointing. All right. Jaime Munar versus Kevin Anderson. Had him -3.5. Anderson's -3. I like that. Like that a lot. It's sketchy because you don't know. That's definitely small. Don't bet too much on old Kevin Anderson. But look, all he needs is a decent serving day, and he's not getting broken. All right, let's see. Going back to the plays from Adelaide, I liked a lot of these. So Yammer versus Quan. Yammer's +2.5. That I think is worth the play. I like that. Just the matchup. You know, Quan's gonna rip to corners, make Yammer defend. He's not gonna have to think. When Yammer has to think out there and, you know, like be the aggressor some points and then lay off some points, it's just when he's just out there running around hitting balls, he's fucking awesome. So we're gonna go with that. I don't think Quan is the most clutch guy in the world. I like that bet a lot. Tiafo -2 versus Kakanakis. You know, it's a tricky spot, and I could totally see Kakanakis, you know, winning a set or even winning the match, but we're going to do small because 2 games is 6-6 gets the job done. And Francis last year had a very good, very clutch tiebreak record. And I would love to be on, you know, the right side of the TFO wave. I haven't really been on that very often. He's pretty tough to predict. But I do like that. Tiafo -2 over Kakanakis. And then Thiago Monteiro versus Marin Cilic. If you have Cilic -4 for even money, I would not do it -130, -120 for even money. 2 breaks for Cilic. 2 breaks for Cilic +100. I like that play a lot. Monteiro's got the lefty loopy forehand, lands short in the court. Cilic is 6'6". He can step in, take that backhand down the line, and then now you have Monteiro running to play defense on his backhand with Cilic has an open court. Anytime Cilic can get in these target practice situations, you know, he's still good. He showed last year that he's still got some juice in the tank. So we're going to add Cilic -4 over Monteiro +100. All right. So, yeah, there we go. We got Marcos Giron -2 games over Berankis. That's a great bet. I think that would be my number 1 play. Popurin -2.5 over Travaglia. I like that. Kevin Anderson -3 games over Munar. That's going to be interesting. You might even want to wait and take that live just to see how Kevin Anderson's playing. Anytime you got these guys 34, 35 years old, betting them pre-match and tying yourself pre-match without knowing how their body's feeling, how they're moving is just dumb. And I know from experience because I made that mistake so many times, including Andy Murray last night. Yimmer +2.5 games versus Quan. I like this a lot. I think Yimmer wins a set. If he wins a set, that 2.5 game spread is probably going to cover. Tiafo -2 over Kakanakis. I like it. If Kakanakis wins, he's going to be something special, so it'll be fun to watch either way. I hope Tiafo can get a 6-3 set in there, so then that gives him some leeway if he does have a mental lapse. And then Cilic -4 over Monteiro. Wow, that's not +1,000. That is +100. Good God. All right. So, yeah, Popurin, Anderson, Yimmer, TFO, Cilic, and then Giron over Berankis. I think those are absolutely the plays of the day. Thank you so much for joining me. We will check back in tomorrow to go over how these bets went down and break down the slate for Wednesday in Australia. Thanks so much, everyone.